water, earth, fire, air. Welcome to Bending the Elements. A production by the Novice Elitist Podcast. With your hosts, Caleb and Isaac. A podcast about all things Avatar. Welcome back to Bending the Elements. This is episode 1, the first proper episode. Although in this one we're actually going to be covering the first 2 episodes, not just the first one. We're going to be covering Book 1, Chapter 1 and 2, The Boy in the Iceberg, and The Avatar Returns.
Which was presented as a pilot in the day. I remember that.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was.
One of those events. An hour-long event, as it were.
Well, I mean, they still treated it as, separate episodes, but it was, at least when I was watching on YTV, it was considered a pilot.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about our experience with this show in the previous episodes, so we'll just kind of jump right into this particular episode. Written by our 2 series creators, Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko.
Yes, Konietzko.
And of course, directed by someone who went on to much more acclaim than he had at this time, which is Dave Filoni.
Yes, that's right. The Dave was the director of this episode.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see, because I didn't pay attention much to the writers or directors when I was going through this previously. So I don't know how much Filoni worked on this show, but it was nice to see his name there.
I think he comes back, for a few episodes, but we'll get to those later.
Yeah, but do you have anything you want to say about these 2 before we jump into it proper, or just head right in?
It is a good pilot and a great setup for the series. And I think, actually, a good tone for at least Book 1.
Yes, that's a good tone right off the bat. We'll definitely discuss that because, I think they handle tone really well here.
Some people, I think, don't like this first... I think they are a little turned off by this first book and how, kind of low-key, lo-fi the tone is throughout this. Is okay, Aang, you have to, master all the elements before Sozin's Comet comes and before Ozai fries the whole Earth. I don't know. I liked how, kind of low-key it was because... It's almost like a road trip season.
Yeah, and I also love the tone for this first season. I like that it's a little bit more laid back. But I'll quickly just restate our little mission statement for this show. I'm not sure if I'm going to do an intro that just has a pre-done intro that I always include here.
Yeah.
But we're going to try not to spoil anything more than what's in the episode that we're watching at the time.
Of course.
So if you're a new viewer, you can come along with us and you won't have to worry about spoilers. But we will have a stinger section after the episode, and we'll have all the spoilers for the rest of the show, and probably for Korra as well, in that stinger section. So if you haven't seen the rest of the show or that other series, don't watch along after the credits, or listen along. But jumping into the episode here, The Boy in the Iceberg, Chapter 1, we start with an extended little, what would you call it?
Title sequence, intro sequence, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, title sequence, there you go. But yeah, we start with the extended version of the opening sequence. Katara tells us about the old days when the Avatar kept the balance between the 4 nations, but all that changed when the Fire Nation attacked, as we'll hear over and over again throughout this show.
Yeah, sorry, up front, Japan didn't like this show. They liked Korra, but they didn't like this show.
Was it kind of the fact that the Fire Nation was the villains?
Heavily based off of imperialistic Japan, yes.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I think some audiences are okay with it in Japan, but maybe some of the hardcore fans were just not really. Not feeling
That's
it.
fair, especially considering this is so anime inspired. I could see why it might tick some people off.
And let's not forget about China with the Earth Kingdom, but again, that's for later.
And only the Avatar could have prevented the Fire Nation from steamrolling everybody else, but there was a problem.
I don't believe that. I think honestly, a nation more. If all the nations actually no, they couldn't. What am I saying?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just quoting Katara here. I'm not necessarily agreeing with her, but
I don't want to be that fan that points out everything like wrong with like, oh, he like all the other nations could have done it. It's like no, they Fire Nation is industrialized, so there was no way that non-industrialized nations could take them on, even by sheer numbers.
yeah, and of course, I think they're more meaning like kind of a mythical element of the story where there was this big imperialist nation. Only if this one person who could bring all of the elements together could bring like balance back to the force. That kind of a story.
Yeah, basically
Basically, immediately setting up the kind of Star Wars dichotomy: the Empire versus the Return of the Jedi type thing.
the rebels.
Yeah, but there's no rebels at the beginning of this show. That's the cool part.
Oh yeah, there isn't.
I guess I shouldn't spoil. But I was going to say, just on a little bit of a production note before I continue with this intro, I love all the still images that we see during this intro here. Just kind of going throughout the nations and seeing all these little beautiful little shots. I think there's some really nice art here.
Yep.
But yeah, our old buddy, the Avatar, he'd vanished, and so he wasn't around to halt the Fire Nation just rolling over everybody. And 100 years after the war, it's reached all the way up to the southern water tribe, Katara's home, the
Up to or down to?
well, down to I don't know. Um, and her father, at this point, her father and many of the men of the village were forced to leave their homes so they can go and join the war. Which is why when we get to Katara and her brother Sokka, there's no one else to look out for the tribe except for Sokka, and Sokka's a little bit of I mean, what's a nice way to describe him?
Try hard, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit of a screw up, but we'll get into.
He thinks highly of himself, but his skills need improving.
Yeah, he's got a lot of spirit, but not a lot of talent. Is I guess a good way to describe
Yeah,
him.
exactly.
But before this little intro, or should I say extended intro, ends, we get a little bit of insight into Katara's outlook on the world. She mentions that many of the more beaten down folks in this time period believe that the Avatar was never reincarnated into his next line, and they're just left without any hope. But Katara, she still thinks the Avatar will one day reappear and bring balance to the four nations.
Indeed.
Or as she says, what does she say at the end of all the other ones?
Bring balance to the earth? No, bring balance to the world. No. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I guess when we get to the second episode. But anyway, yeah, like I said, I just wanted to quickly comment on the beautiful animation in this sequence. But apart from that, I also wanted to mention the music, which I'll definitely be bringing up throughout this episode because I think there's some great music at the start of this show, but this intro has some of the best.
Jerry Zuckerman, a great composer he is.
Yeah, big kudos to that guy. Just great. Especially when we get to Korra. Some of the music in Korra is just out of this world great.
Indeed.
But yeah, book 1, chapter 1, The Boy in the Iceberg. But yeah, I'll just say when I was reading these notes, I got so pumped writing out even just that intro. I was like, oh man, it feels so great to finally be here.
Mm-hmm.
But jumping into the episode proper, we get a real introduction to Katara and her brother Sokka.
Sokka. Freudian slip.
No, it's actually an intentional joke. I wrote it in my notes, and then I was like, wait a minute, why did I write Sokka?
Oh, golly.
And I was like, oh yeah, I was making a joke to that stupid movie.
Oh, golly. All right, well, it's Sokka the rest of the show. That's going to muck me up.
Oh, no. Yeah, and the Avatar, well, that's what we'll call him every time he shows up.
All right. Ong.
But so yeah, the two of them, they're out on a little boat doing some fishing. Are they the only ones who provide the food for the village, do you think? I mean, it's all like old people and kids.
I think it goes in shifts.
Sokka, he's just poking at the water with a spear, and he's not really getting anywhere. But Katara takes a different tact, and she decides to try out some of her waterbending skills. They don't mention it for a while, but she's the only waterbender in their village, or even in their entirety, the South Pole, I think they say.
In the Southern Pole, there's no other waterbenders, and there's a reason why, but we can't go into it right now.
We'll get into that. But unfortunately, because she's even successful, she manages to capture a fish and almost bring it in the boat. But that silly old Sokka, he hits it with his spear and then splashes himself with water, and he gets all mad. We find out that Sokka isn't a waterbender, and not only that, he has a pretty negative view of benders, which, maybe comes from the Fire Nation taking over everything. Maybe that's why he has a negative view.
That, or
I'm not
maybe
sure.
also because he wasn't blessed with waterbending as a kid, so maybe some jealousy going on. I don't think we ever get that in, well, again, maybe later on, but with one episode in particular, I gotta rewatch it to reaffirm my case, but there might be something there. I don't know, but I think I'd like to mention that this is maybe not the only place, but at least so far, I think this is the only place that mentions magic. That's a whole other point of contention of whether or not what's in this world is magic or it's chi/key. And I heavily want to
Hmm.
go with key, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's like not so much magic, it's just the connection that people have with the world is different. Whether like the way they connect with the elements.
Well, no, there is magic in Chinese culture, so I can't deny that. But I haven't looked up my Chinese culture, magical culture recently. But as far as I'm aware, at least with English magic, there oftentimes is a need of a sacrifice, an equivalent exchange, let's put it that way, and a ritual to perform that stuff. And these guys are not performing sacrifices nor rituals, as far as I'm aware. So, not exactly calling it magic per se.
This is more like the tact they took with Doctor Strange, where it's just you naturally tap into elements and you have to find ways to channel them.
Well, yes and no.
Yeah, yes and no, because yeah, they don't really have to find a way to channel and they can just naturally tap into them. It's just honing the skill.
Now, when you say Doctor Strange, do you mean MCU Strange or in like comic Strange?
Obviously, MCU
Oh,
Strange. Yeah,
golly.
the other one
Oof.
is not at all that way.
Not a good
I
example,
mean,
but
you've seen
okay.
that movie,
Once.
but but you know what I mean. I mean, that's essentially what they do.
I didn't like that movie.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean. I mean, maybe that means you don't remember what they did,
I
but
guess not. And also, maybe it's a reference that the kiddies nowadays can understand.
wow, how condescending to MCU fans.
Anyways,
Yeah, as they're doing their fishing, they happen to get caught up in a current, and this ends up pretty disastrously for them because their boat gets destroyed, and they find themselves stranded on an iceberg just out in the middle of
a
nowhere.
good action scene, I'll say that. Or at least an action scene, pardon me.
Yep, well animated. A little bit of excitement early on.
At least with the first season, I know or first book, pardon me. I mean, okay, other than like that one animation studio, I think there's almost no like off frames here, so
These first two episodes, at least, really good animation, I
of
think.
course.
But yeah, the two, I mean, they're in a pretty bad state of affairs, and they start to argue, maybe just stressed out about the, pretty hopeless situation that they find themselves in, because how are they going to get back?
It's hopeless. And before everybody asks, like, oh, how come Qatar couldn't, just bend the water current? Okay, I want to spoil, but I can't. But like right now, let's put it this way. Right now, she's not strong enough to take control over a current. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a point of contention, because she's actually pretty strong, as we see in this scene. She's having an argument with Sokka, and as she's having the argument, she ends up just pulling up a whole bunch of water behind her and smashing this giant iceberg. So she's pretty strong. She just has no ability to control it. Is the real problem, which is going to be a big thrust of this episode.
It's either she's emotional and that's what's causing the disruptions in the water, or I think it's both actually.
Yeah, I think when she's really emotional, she can almost tap into it more, like tapping into the dark side.
And in fact, that
She,
actually is a point of contention with well, again, I shouldn't. I don't want to. Dang, it's so hard not to spoil stuff. But let's just say another bending style kind of is like that as well, where if you tap into your emotions, you can get bigger results, but not always better.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you want to spoil, you can. I'll just clip that stuff out and put it in the end.
Okay. Well, for actually, yeah, I guess.
But yeah, so she cracks this giant iceberg behind her, and a huge glowing piece appears, and hidden within it is the Avatar.
Well, yeah, that's fair. Interesting, like scene though, because when watching it, I saw that the scene sort of almost shifted. Like the ice, there was ice behind them and then in front of them, but the scene beforehand, I don't think there was any ice. Could be wrong on
Yeah, it
that.
was weird. Oh, right after they came out of the current, they were like surrounded by all these little icebergs, and then suddenly they all disappeared, and that's when I was like, oh yeah, now they can't even escape, because
Yeah,
before they could have just ran across the broken
it's
ice.
like
But
barren wasteland of water, and you're stuck in the open sea. It's like nope, there's still ice around them. It's like okay, well they're safe, and then all of a sudden like these ice blocks form up, and it's like what the hey. Yeah, then she takes Sokka's spear and just starts, whacking it. And all of a sudden, yeah, we see, kid in the iceberg. Well, first we see something in the iceberg, and then we see a boy in the iceberg, and she cracks it open, and there's the kid in the iceberg, and what appears I assume this trope was being used beforehand, or trope slash cliche now, but trope in the day of giant beam in the sky.
Yeah, I was gonna make the joke. What is this? Any Marvel movie or Skyline? Do you remember Skyline?
Wasn't it also? Well, it was a beam coming down from the sky, which was in Independence Day. But I guess that
Oh
was.
yeah,
I don't know, that doesn't count because that was a laser beam, so that shouldn't count.
yeah. I don't remember if it was a laser in Skyline either now, but yeah, definitely the
I seriously don't remember Skyline. Actually, I have to look this up now.
yeah Skyline. It like came out. It was during that big like sci-fi renaissance in 2009. Where it was like District 9 came out. There was Skyline. There was Moon. There was Avatar. It was like a big year for sci-fi
Yeah,
2009,
I
and
don't remember
Skyline
this
was
movie
terrible.
whatsoever. That like went. Hey, here's an idea for what we could do in Novice Elitist.
Sure, it's a terrible movie. It's really, really bad, but it was part of the what I thought was a little sci-fi revolution at the time.
Is
But
it sci-fi though? It's action sci-fi. Let's be perfectly real here. It's not actually hard thinking.
hey, anything can be sci-fi. That's the
I prefer the more sophisticated stuff, but that's just me.
oh, but here we are derailing again. Get used to this, folks. This is the Novice Leadus. We just derail constantly, but
Segway City, but that's already taken, and or off topic, but that's also taken. Getting off track podcast. So the guys with the beam in the sky.
yep. But we cut away from that beam because, unluckily for our group of potential heroes here, there was another youth exploring these frozen wastes. Prince Zuko, scorned son of the Fire Lord, has been searching for a way to get back into his father's good graces, and to do so, he set his eyes on finding the lost Avatar. He's got one vessel and his uncle Iroh along for the ride, and he happens to see this giant Marvel blue light shining up, so sets him on the case.
He's not the only one that saw the beam in the sky, but some nearby sea leopards, I believe, or seal leopards. Pardon me.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what those are called, but I like seeing that. They look cool.
Yeah, again, chimeric beasts. Great. I wish there was more plushies of those. That'd be awesome to have.
Oh, yeah, hopefully with the new studio, maybe they'll do like a big marketing
Oh, it's
push.
gonna be like just merchandise overload. It's gonna be like Disney for pit's sakes. Like you have all these creatures, and you can have like put tons and tons of them and make so much money. But whatever.
Could you imagine if this turns into the new Force Awakens for you? You get so hyped and then you just completely turn on it. I hope that doesn't happen.
It's not going to happen. I think I've learned my lesson from that.
That's fair.
I'll at least try to remember what I had with that before. But I mean, hey, they haven't announced a Nausicaa of the Vibe the Wind TV series yet, have they?
No, no.
Which, by the way, you have to get back on
But
that.
yeah, reading that,
Yeah.
absolutely. But Prince Zuko, he's getting real pumped about that light, and he's like, "We gotta go investigate this at once. I got nothing else better to look at. This is my only lead."
Voiced by the wonderful, always wonderful Dante Bosco.
Yes, who's wonderful. Yep. But Iroh tries to dissuade him, want to just sit back and drink some tea and play with his tiles. Do you know what game he's playing, by the way?
Well, first off, I don't see a White Lotus nearby.
I think the White Lotus is actually on one of them.
Oh wow, and I just watched it, so I don't. Actually, I think it is, but anyway, it's probably a. I want to say like most games in fiction are based off of something, at least in real world, modified obviously so it looks otherworldly. But I assume he's playing some form of like. I feel like it's not solitaire, but it's something similar to solitaire, but like maybe the. I don't want to say there's a Chinese version for everything, but like whatever a perhaps Chinese game of cards.
That's fair. And this is a good setup for Iroh because this is the role he's going to play basically throughout the whole show. Like, or at least the first two seasons, just like, no, let's just sit back and relax. Don't worry about all that stuff. You're getting too uppity.
Of course, also voiced by the wonderful, rest in peace, Mako. Or Mako, pardon me.
Yes, very sad.
I forget his last name.
But Zuko, he's not having any of that relaxed talk, and he's like, "No, let's get to war here."
Oh yeah, he said something about have some calming jasmine tea. I don't want no calming jasmine tea.
Yep.
Sets up the relationship right there, and also yeah, what kind of character he is, certainly.
Yeah, we'll definitely get back to that in a couple scenes here. Yeah, we cut back to I was gonna say Team Avatar, but it's not Team Avatar yet.
Pre-Team Avatar.
Then we have Aang climbing out of his frozen tomb, looking a little bit worse for wear, and he asks Katara to come close to him. He's all like he's gonna pass out.
I would say he's more just like I guess he's worse for. I feel like he was tired, but okay.
Yeah, worse for wear. I mean, like he's just like exhausted a little bit,
Yeah.
and he asks, I was gonna say Cora, asks Katara to come in close, and then he completely switches gears and asks to go penguin sledding with him. Yeah, and I just want to point out I loved a little bit of humor with Sokka pointing him with the spear, and Aang just kind of absently just waves it away. I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, so Aang goes to try and wake up his trusty old pal Appa the air bison, who has a very Totoro type of appeal, I'll just say.
The cat bus.
Yeah, especially in this scene right here where he like sneezes, and that was making me think a lot of that scene with was it May, who was on Totoro's stomach?
Oh yeah, with May, yeah, with little May on his stomach. Excuse me.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's like a burp or just like a yell one.
I think a
But
yawn.
yawn, there you go. Yeah, there's a scene in here that really makes me think of that moment that I think they were trying to ape a little bit. But yeah, so Aang sneezes and flies up in the air, a signal to our two Water Tribe folks that this young tattooed dude is actually an airbender, which seems to surprise them both for some mysterious reason that we'll find out later.
Oh yeah. Sorry for
Uh,
interrupting. I don't know where to put this, but I just remembered the original premise for this, in that it was supposed to be a lot more kind of like a Final Fantasy game. In that it wasn't even like the Avatar, but he was gonna be still like this guy who could, or this kid who can control air. But it was a lot more. There was a lot more. Actually, I think it was a little more Ghibli as well, where there's a lot more machinery integration in the world. Like, Appa was a mechanical beast instead of the air bison, and I don't know if Aang had some mechanical staff instead of what he has now, but I think Momo might have been there as well. Spoiler character, sorry. But instead of 100 years, it was either 1,000 or 10,000 years he slept and then woke up. And so that was like the original premise apparently that Break had, or somebody had in mind for, which is like, I kind of want to see that. That would be an interesting idea to see where that would have gone.
That'll be their sci-fi take. He'll wake up and it'll be like completely different.
Like, this is pure fantasy, a pure fantasy series, which is awesome, and that would have
Mhm.
probably made it a little more what science fantasy. But anyway, sorry, continue on.
Yeah, so Aang happens to notice that these two look like they're pretty stranded here, and he offers to give them a lift back to their little village. And so they head back, but by floating rather than air, because Appa hasn't quite recovered yet. So he needs to can't quite make it into the skies yet.
No, he's about to, and does a giant belly. Well, not before he sneezes. Well, both guys sneeze actually. I think this is a little weird. I just thought of it. It's because it's a different altitude and or a different kind of air. I think so. They're not used to the salty air, perhaps, and so they sneezed. So first, yeah, I just realized. Yeah, Aang sneezes first and goes in 100 feet in the air, and it's like, whoa, what's this about? And she's like, "Oh, you're an airbender." It's like, yeah, that's what I am, because Aang is not exactly aware of what's going on. Let's put it that way, as it seems. And then Appa also, I guess, readjusts to the environment around him, and well, his senses, or his ah,
Sinuses.
thank you, his sciences uh go off and lets out a big old loogie right at Sokka, and it's like, oh, don't worry, it comes out, it washes out.
Yeah, but I just wanted to point out one more little scene as they're heading off to the village. There's this one little bit where Aang is just smiling back at Katara, and Katara's like, why are you smiling at me? And he's like, oh, I was smiling. There's a little touch of awkwardness there, but I thought that was a nice little, tiny little bit of setup for a potential future romance between them.
Set up and or just Aang trying to like act all normal, like everything is fine, nothing's going on, it's all right, nothing's
Uh,
again with the current situation. But anyway, pardon me. Yeah, Appa tries to fly and ends up belly flopping, and Sokka's just like, "Wow, riveting."
yeah, so we cut away briefly back to Zuko and Iroh, and we get some hints about what I mentioned earlier about Zuko's intent in finding the Avatar here. Iroh says that the search is pointless and that generations of their family have failed trying to find him.
4 generations of his family, pardon me.
Yeah, but Zuko sees this as the only way to regain his honor, so that's why he's going after it, even though it seems like a bit of a lost cause. But back on the floating bison, Katara gets a little curious about the identity of this mysterious airbender, And she even asks him if he knew the Avatar back home before he was frozen, but Aang denies it. Aang, at this point, we get a cool little dream sequence about his air voyage that got him trapped in the ice here.
Actually, funny part about that of like, oh, I knew him. It kind of reminded me of the scene in episode 4 where Luke's asking Obi-Wan like, oh yeah, did you know who Obi-Wan was? It's like, yeah, I knew him. He's not anymore though.
That's fair. Didn't think about that connection, but yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and then he just turns away and is like, pulling at his collar. It's like, is he getting hot in here or what?
Yeah, but during this little dream sequence here, we get kind of an interesting moment where he crashed into the water, and suddenly his eyes turn all blue, and he finds himself creating what looked to be either some sort of oxygen bubble, or maybe he was bending the water around to freeze. I wasn't entirely sure what he was doing with creating that little ball that he seals himself in.
An air bubble.
Air bubble, yeah, that's what I thought maybe, but then I was like, well, they are frozen in the middle of it, so
Yeah.
did he freeze the air? I wasn't entirely sure, but
The Avatar state. Sorry, I guess can I call it that? I don't know.
yeah, I even wrote in my notes. I'll just say I said, "P.S. We're going to try to keep things relatively spoiler free." But I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say this is the first appearance of the Avatar state.
Yeah, it's the first appearance of the Avatar state, and I actually, remember spoilers, his first use of the Avatar state.
Oh, interesting. I didn't remember that detail.
Yeah, that's the first instance of him being able to go into the Avatar state, and it's a very reactionary life or death situation. In that he was drowning, and so kind of give him a second wind, and or kind of took over for him when he lost consciousness and created an air bubble out of his current surroundings. And I guess he also in the either the Avatar state knew that there was an ocean around Aang or them, excuse me, and it just so happened that the water froze and they didn't do anything about that, or just, we're not saying that it was intentional to like freeze themselves, but
yeah, we'll definitely get into what the Avatar state is later on in the series, but we do see it again at the end of the second part, and it's doing the same thing where it's kind of almost possessing him to react in order to save him from a situation, kind of like Katara not being able to control her power. It's almost like it just flows through him.
self-preservation almost. But this is, the Avatar state being a little different.
Yeah, a little different. But so Aang wakes up in the village, and for whatever reason, Katara seems to notice his tattoos for the first time, which I thought was a little bit strange.
Yeah.
But she introduces him to the rest of the village, and we get a nice little bit of casual world building during this scene.
Yes, we do.
Because Katara's grandma tells Aang that they all thought the airbenders were extinct until he was found, which Aang looks pretty shocked about. But they very quickly move away from that by jumping back to humor, as the grandma gives herself a very deadpan introduction with some like slide whistles or something. I wasn't sure what that was.
Sorry, I'm watching the episode. Said this, and I got to the part where he's got his tongue stuck to his glider.
Yeah, I was about to say, the same part of the. We also see his new little functions of his stick here.
His glider, that's what it's called. I got that wrong beforehand, but it was his glider.
Yeah, he takes up doing some aerial tricks, but we see that he's a little bit of a klutz too, which is one of the charming features for him.
Well, I wouldn't say he's a klutz. I just think he's kind of showing off a bit as well, the kids and wowing them, and even some of the women as well, for Qatar. And obviously, Gran and Sokka are not having any of it. They just have, Sokka has they both have angry faces on their being, and it's like, fair enough. Which is very interesting from what Shyamalan did, where the grandma was actually a little more proactive, let's put it that way, in at least sending the kids off to do their own thing. I'll say that part. Spoilers. Whoops.
Yeah, but we'll see that this Gran is a similar way at the end of the second episode.
Yeah, but right now she's kind of a stick up the butt right now.
Yeah. Yeah, but how do you think they balance the tone here? I mean, they're kind of delving into some more serious stuff with talking about his whole, basically, race going extinct, and then they immediately jump over to humor.
They drop the line of the airbenders are gone, and he doesn't know that. And he's either denying it and just like, nah, they're fine. Especially when we get to, I think it was episode 3, we'll see.
Yeah, he's in total denial. He's barely registering what people are telling him at this point.
Yeah, it's a little like one ear out the other.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like it's too much for him to comprehend, and so it just doesn't even connect. It just passes right through.
Not just that, but he doesn't realize it's been 100 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody else has done this before, so of course he's just gonna be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but so continuing a little bit into that scene, Sokka lets it slip that Katara is a waterbender, and we see that Katara has her hopes set that he'll be her teacher to kind of help her hone these skills that she clearly has, but doesn't have any way to control at this point, at least not well. And I like the little bit of comedy juxtaposition with her saying that he seems like he has all this wisdom. Yeah, and then we get that shot that you mentioned with him getting his tongue stuck to his staff there.
Yes.
Yeah, and I definitely enjoy some of the lightheartedness that we get in this village scene. I think there's a lot of kind of humorous scenes. But getting away from some of that lightheartedness, we cut back to Zuko and Iroh, as Zuko himself is getting some training.
Yeah, the guy who has a bigger stick up his butt.
Yep. Yeah, and he's getting some firebending slash combat practice, and Iroh gives a little bit of an insight to the nature behind bending, saying it's about moving energy in the body and naturally extending it through yourself rather than just like forcing it like you would at like stretching a muscle.
Yeah, and also the first instance to of showing us firebending as well, and kind of how the martial arts work in the show.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Yeah, except for the little bit that we saw in the intro, but yeah, it's the first time seeing it in combat.
Yeah,
But yeah, and so Iroh's trying to tell Zuko that he's impatient, and Zuko just proves him right by immediately demanding that he move him up to the more advanced techniques rather than focusing on the basics.
trying to justify the fact that they're not knowing that Aang is 12 years old instead of 112. It's like, oh, he's got 100 years to him right now, so he's just like insane.
Yeah, exactly.
Like insanely over leveled, overpowered. So it's gonna take me so like I need all the advanced lists, and even then, it's like Zuko, you have no chance. But it's just that drive, man. That's that drive that of just wanting to find him is what's keeping him rational and not level headed right now.
Trying to get back to his family. I mean, he's out here on his own, just in like exile.
Well, again, trying to get his honor back to his name, or bring honor back to his name. Excuse me.
Yeah, very Japanese in that, in the style too. I can definitely see why why the comparisons are there.
I mean, he's got that. I forget what that, but he's got a ponytail. It's not. I forgot what kind of what it's called, but I do like that.
I forget too.
Funny that I just realized that him and Aang are both like bald the first season, or at least Aang is bald. That I think actually Breck mentioned that later on. But it's funny that both of them are bald except for like one part of Aang of Zuko, of course.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of comparisons that we can draw between the two of them as the series goes on.
Yeah, of course.
But cutting back to the village, we get another comedy scene with Sokka trying to train a bunch of kids to be warriors because, again, all the men have left the village at this point. But Aang almost immediately disrupts it, trying to play with the kids, and he makes this joke because Sokka's like, who needs to go to the bathroom? And they all put their hands up, and then Aang has that joke about everything freezes in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then he shows them how to use Appa's tail as a slide, and he's just all over the place.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'll give him this. Like, Aang wasn't trying to. It's just that he just came out of the bathroom. All the kids had to go as well, and so unless that was like their excuse because they knew he was in there, but
maybe they do seem to have a bond with Aang just immediately.
Well, again, he's closer. I'm not closer in age, but he's got that childlike sense of wonder to him, and these kids are also like they've only known. They're not in war, pardon me, but they know that war. They're living in war times, basically. So I think and especially in a much more socioeconomic stance of being in the low part. I don't even know if because they're not homeless because they're all like self-sufficient basically.
Yeah, and removed enough that they don't quite see the damages of war, except for having lost all their male parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I love the scene where Aang just goes firing off because he sees a penguin. He wants to get over to that penguin sledding you mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah.
And I also love the bit where he says he has a way with animals and starts doing that stupid little penguin walk and imitating their voice.
And it just books it like straight to there. It's great. And also another explanation, not an explanation, but another example of like what airbenders can do, and that they have, because they literally can control the air resistance means nothing to them, which is awesome.
Yeah, and he's just so charming during these scenes, just such a fun presence. But Katara comes over and offers to help him catch a penguin if he'll help her to learn some waterbending skills.
Yes.
And she explains that she's the only waterbender in the entirety of the South Pole, which we mentioned. And so he's the only option that she has for a teacher because even though he's not a waterbender, he's at least a bender to some degree.
I mean, she highly suspects that he's the Avatar, but yeah, of course, it's like, oh yeah, you have everything, you know everything. So it's like, not really.
Yeah, I don't know if she even really suspects. Maybe she hopes, but I don't really get this the except for that one time when she asked if he knew the Avatar. That's the only real implication that we get that she was even thinking about the connection.
Yeah, it's true.
But in response to her offer, he says that he'll take her to the North Pole to find a proper waterbender teacher. And so,
Yeah.
she's a little bit concerned at the prospect of leaving her home for the first time. But either way, she helps Aang out with his penguin problem. And she tosses him a fish, and all the penguins come marching in to get it.
Yeah.
That was cute.
She is an animal tamer, let's put it that way. But so is Aang. Aang's totally an animal tamer.
Hey, he's got his way with them.
I think it also has to do with like it's part him, but also I spoilers. I think it also has to do with the Avatar as well, since it connects to all life. So the
Mm-hmm.
Avatar kind of is almost empathetic to all life in a way.
Oh, it's pretty rude of those pangos, though, not to be immediately attracted to him as the Avatar. They're trying to run away.
That's fair.
But he's grabbing on them, so.
Maybe the Avatar spirit comes and goes. I'm just speculating, guys.
But then we get a fun little sequence of them sledding on these poor little penguins.
Just that music though was really nice. It was very bouncy, very active and energetic. I loved it a lot.
Yep, perfect for that little sequence there.
And I think it gets reused a few times as well later on in the book in book 1.
Yeah, I thought it came back. I guess we'll keep an eye out for it, or keep an ear out, I should
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
But their fun gets interrupted when they stumble upon a crashed Fire Nation ship that Katara says holds some very bad memories for their tribe. But Aang doesn't really care, and so he decides to go check it out anyway, against Katara's wishes.
Yeah, it's forbidden for her to go in there, and it's like, screw the rules, go in there.
Yeah, even though she warns him that there could potentially be some Chekhov's booby traps hidden in there, he still goes in anyway, and they go check it out.
Emphasis on the traps.
And it was during the exploration of this ship, seeing all the weapons and really having to kind of face the reality that, oh, this really is a Fire Nation ship. What's it doing out here? And it finally sinks in for him that he's been in the ice for 100 years and has missed out on a lot.
I also want to say that I love the scenes of the ship. That just the walking around, it's really nice.
Yeah, this is going to sound so stupid, but it was giving me some vibes of in the Thing when they go investigate that older Norwegian base
Oh yeah,
after it's in ruins. It could just be because they're both snowy, but
that's fair. I was also thinking of Alien as well. Like we don't obviously see a.
Hmm,
That's funny. We don't obviously see any eggs, but the idea of just the suspense and like nothing being there is what makes it all the more scary and atmospheric.
yeah, yeah, and it was also giving me some vibes of The Abyss too. But I know you haven't seen that, but
Eventually,
but unfortunately, after this realization, it's followed up with an unfortunate mistake because one of Katara's proposed booby traps ends up getting tripped, and a signal flare is fired into the sky.
oh yeah, and they go into the cockpit. Actually, they go into the main deck of the ship and go over a tripwire and locks the door, and it sets off a mechanical apparatus, and a flare goes up. And who sees the flare, my good friend? But the scarred or the burnt man himself.
Yeah, Prince Zuko. Yeah, and even worse than that, he spots with using his little what would you call that? Telescope?
Yeah.
No, not telescope. I forget what those ones are called. The oh, what are they called? Do you remember?
Oh, magnifying glass?
No, a telescope's probably good enough. Eyeglass, maybe.
Spyglass.
Spyglass. I think that's right. Yeah, he spots Aang using his airbending abilities to escape, signifying to Zuko that he's finally found the Avatar. And that's how we end the first chapter.
Indeed.
Yeah, so what'd you think? How do you think this worked out as the first part of this two-parter here?
It's first part again for pilot. Again, it's pilot. So of course you're gonna do well. It's enough setup and enough characterization. I think were put into this episode, which is nice. And it's 2004. I kept it. Oh, what the hey? It's it. Sorry, I was just looking at the end of the episode, and it was like it said 2004 on it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Well, it was released in February 2005, so yeah, produced
I
in
guess
2004.
yeah, that makes sense. I think they got the world building. It's funny that that was like only 20 minutes, and it was like they got enough in there, which was nice.
Yep. Yeah, they packed it full. Set up the characters well, set up the mystery for this second part well. Um, I guess, and not just the second part, because they'll continue to expand some of these mysteries as we go
Yeah,
on.
of course. They have a lot of there's mysteries in here. There's a lot of questions to be asked and answered. Of course, not everything, of course, by the end of the series is answered, but not enough to like make me dissatisfied. I'll say that. At least me personally. Excuse me.
Yeah, but you gotta wonder what's Aang. I don't know if they really. They kind of, because we see the map initially, we kind of see the setup of the world, like what's a air nomad doing all the way out here in the middle of nowhere, flying around 100 years ago. What caused him to flee wherever he was,
Yeah.
especially because he didn't know about the war at that time.
Yep.
So,
Well, yeah, no. How did he not know about the war? What's going on? What will we see minorly? Will we ever see the men of the Southern Water Tribe again? Will
yep, yep.
will will Katara learn how to become a waterbending master? And will Sokka stop with his jokes and or stop with his stick up his butt? It's actually funny. Sokka's not the
And will Prince Zuko capture the Avatar? Tune in next time on.
Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, okay. Or Z, excuse me.
What were you saying? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Just I just realized that Zuko actually he is certainly the smart aleck in the show, and with some deadpan snarking stuff like that. But he actually isn't as funny in these first few episodes than he is towards the end of the series.
Oh no, yeah, he gets a sense of humor once he's humbled. Right now, he thinks he's like this elite warrior, and he's being in a horrible spot of kind of embarrassment. So he's got no time for humor.
I guess as they travel the world and he starts seeing the other cultures and or the other peoples around, it kind of maybe like pops that bubble of his like inflated ego, and then like he's like, oh crap, I gotta fall back on something. What do I do? What do I do? Humor. There we go. So I'm just gonna be as deadpan as I can to everybody. Oh, did I say Zuko? I also meant Sokka.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sokka is, yeah, kind of a.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about Zuko, but
I
yeah,
guess it happens with both characters though.
it
Spoilers
does.
for both, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it happens for both of them.
Yeah, I feel like Sokka takes a bit of a while because yeah, he's I guess in a similar way to Zuko, he feels like he has so much weight on his shoulders he can't really have time for humor. He's got to be the man of this whole village. It's all down to him.
Yeah,
But we'll get into in the second episode. But I feel really. I guess we'll just get into it.
yeah, of course. And with keep in mind we were also I think still trying to find the voice for a lot of characters. Like certain characters came off very easily and were written quite easily, just like Yang is the avatar, he's the protagonist, here's what his mission is. And we have Zuko, who may have taken a little while longer to figure out, but he has a very good arc as well, or has a good character to him. And then Katara and whatnot. I think Sokka might have been that as well, where there was but maybe they planned that out beforehand, I don't remember.
Yeah, we'll get into the second episode, and because I think we might see Sokka a little bit differently in this initial part, but moving on to chapter 2, the Avatar returns. We start with the regular opening sequence again that we'll see for the rest of the series, which I love this opening sequence, by the way. I just think it's great. I think Mae Whitman does a great job delivering it. I think the music's excellent. And I think it's a good little introduction. Without the extended one, I think it still encapsulates everything well. Yeah, we get the regular opening sequence that we'll get for the rest of the series. And yeah, that I love Mae Whitman's job delivering it. I think she does a good job, and I really like the music in it.
Yeah, what do you think of some of the bending styles done here?
I like it. It reminds me of what does it remind me of? Some Hong Kong flick. Uh, just doing those moves in that kind of void space. It might be the 36 Chambers of Shaolin,
Probably.
maybe. I'm trying to think of which movie I saw, but I'll try to think of it as we go along, and I'll reference it whenever it comes to me. But
Yeah, of course. Um, so Sifu Kisu was the stunt, not martial arts consultant, excuse me, on the show, and pretty much all through this and into Korra, and as we found out in our commentary with the Last Airbender, it was not Sifu Kisu was not brought in to help do any of the martial arts for the movie, which kind of blows, but that's just me. And as for other characters in the title sequence, we have Master. Geez, I don't remember the northern the northern water tribe master who is sexist towards Katara. This is in the
Well,
spoilers,
we can.
and
Yeah, I was gonna say we can probably get to these characters when we meet them, but
well, because we never meet the Earthbender because that's you think that's the one would think it's the boulder, but it's actually supposed to be the original design for Toph,
oh yeah, I forgot it was supposed to be a dude.
and we never
Yeah.
meet the Airbender. So I mean, we
Hmm.
meet the Firebender. We know who that is in the next season, or sorry, at the end of this book. But yeah, it was just a nice. I like the demonstration of the martial arts, basically.
Yeah, it looks cool. I love with the again like a void space that they're in with the. It's just a cool way to start the series, and especially with her saying her fire water or fire water. What's the order?
So it goes water, earth, fire, air.
There you go.
Wait, no, because it goes in order of the elements and of the Avatar cycle. So I think it's the last one, and then when we get to Korra, it's then earth, fire, air, water.
Oh, that'll be fascinating if they do one where it's the Earthbender. That's the
Well, that's what I'm hoping for, man. Where it's gonna be, it would then be fire, air, water, earth.
fire. Would be really cool too. But anyway,
Interesting to see what that becomes like. But and also the line was, "But I believe Aang can save the world."
yeah, I turned it up so I could hear that. But since I forgot to mention in the first episode, let's talk a little bit about the voices behind our main three here.
Yes, let us. I kind of briefly mentioned them, but I don't know if I did a good job of explaining them. You have the research more than I do.
It was just Bosco, I think, that we talked about a little bit, so I'll just scratch him out. But
Yeah, briefly mentioned Mako.
but I guess since I already mentioned Mae Whitman, we can just start with her. So yeah, she'd been in the acting game for actually quite a while at this point. She was working as a child actor in live action stuff as well as voice acting for like almost 10 years at this point.
Yes, she and I think it was around the same time. I don't remember the exact years, but it was around the same time that she and Bosco did the Jake and the American Dragon series and on Disney X or on the Disney Channel, excuse me, where she was a secondary character in that, whereas he was the lead character.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that came later
Oh, it
though.
must have come later. Never mind. Okay, and I think it was just a coincidence that they both were cast in that, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh yeah, I don't know any details about the casting, but yeah, because before this, she'd mostly just done like one-off bit parts, except for she played the co-lead in a series called State of Grace in 2001. Do you remember that? Do you remember that
That
show?
rings a bell. Zeta Grace. I don't.
Or State of Grace? I might have slurred a little bit.
State of Grace. Oh, State of Grace. Okay, was that a live action show or an animated
Live
show?
action.
All right. What's the premise?
I think it was something to do with the government. I don't remember the details of it. I only saw it very occasionally. But I mainly know it through a second actress that was like the co-lead with her, who was in Arrested Development. She played Maybe in that series.
Okay.
And it turns out that Mae Whitman actually appeared in Arrested Development frequently. I just forgot about her character.
Oh, was she
But
in the I don't know what the reboot is called, but the season 4 on Netflix?
I don't remember if she showed up when it came back.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing her, but I might just not have noticed.
Well, as I said to you off camera or off recording, excuse me, we do not have. She does not reprise her role as the president's daughter in Independence Day Resurgence.
Which I forgot that you've mentioned, yeah.
Quite a disappointment.
Well, she probably that's probably better off.
Fair enough.
But she was also a regular on Johnny Bravo. She played Little Susie, which I think came out before Avatar did.
Way before.
Yeah, so she'd already had a bit of a career.
But both fun fact about that. Both Butch Hartman and Seth MacFarlane worked on that show together.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Huh. Interesting. But post Avatar, I mean, she's gone on to again, just she's working all the time. She pops up all over the place.
Oh, and also another fun fact is that with Seth MacFarlane, Michael Dante DiMartino actually directed some episodes of the first few seasons of Family Guy.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah, so just bringing that up. So that's relative. Excuse me. She was in a movie called The Duff, which was probably the only reason I went in to watch it because I knew who she was. I was like, yeah, no, I know absolutely who she is, so I'm going to support her. And I thought the movie was okay. It wasn't like terrible. It was a stereotypical, I don't know, teenage movie, I guess, with romance and stuff.
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay.
I don't know what it was like against the book, but like I heard the book was a little more. There was much more sexual themes in the book than it was in the movie. But I don't know. I'm just going off of what I read on stuff on the internet. Excuse me.
Didn't even realize it was based off a book.
Apparently, it was. And there, she's supposed to play a teenager, but like that was in 2015, and she's certainly older than we are. So
Yeah, she was born 88.
Dawson casting, excuse me.
But getting away from her, we've also got Jack DeSena as Sokka.
Yes.
Yeah, and he hadn't done nearly as much as Whitman. He'd been an occasional performer and eventually a regular on the series All That, the sketch comedy
Yeah,
series.
all that. That was that Nickelodeon or something else? I think it was. Yeah, it
Yep,
was Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon. Yeah, not a particular favorite series of mine, but it is one that I saw frequently in my youth.
Yes.
Yeah, but that was basically it before he got Avatar, and since Avatar's finished, his career's been kind of a blank for me. Like I haven't seen or even recognized almost anything that he's done, except for the recent series they did for Netflix with the head writer for Avatar, Aaron Azaz,
Yes.
Dragon
I think it's
Prince.
Ehaz. Excuse me.
Is that how you say it? I was
That's what they said in the commentaries.
sure Ehaz. Yeah, that's a weird
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, and our last names aren't weird.
Yeah, we both got weird last names. Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with having a weird last name, you know?
I'm
It's
I'm
just
I'm
the way
happy
it
that I
is.
have a unique last name, but yours is more frequent. Let's put it that way. I found that freaking sign down in Seattle for pit's sake. So you exist more than I do. I'll say that.
Wish I had a different last
There's only
name.
10 of us in BC for pit's sakes, and they're all related to me.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, bake that 9. One's in Germany right now, back in the fatherland.
But what were you saying?
Oh yeah. I was gonna mention just sorry, Dragon Prince. I shouldn't interrupt you. My bad.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I think he's. Oh, that's what I meant to say. I think he's a little more selective. I don't know if he's not trying to find work. I think he's just very selective with what he's going with, and he also, I think, might do stand up comedy. I might be wrong on that. Obviously, not like
Hmm.
any Netflix specials or HBO specials, but just one of those low key stand up comedians.
Yeah, I also saw that he was the lead of a Hulu original series called Battleground.
Oh, really?
So he's definitely doing stuff,
Okay.
but I didn't recognize any of
I
it.
wonder if that's on Disney Plus now.
Maybe.
I hope so. But anyway.
But lastly, before we finally jump into the episode, we've also got Zach Tyler Eason behind Aang, who was easily the youngest of the three. The other two were about 17 and 18, respectively, while they were working on the show. But Zach was only 12, so, or maybe even younger, actually. He might have been 11.
I think he was our age, actually. I think he's our year, I believe.
A year before us, 93.
Okay. So he certainly is playing. It's not Dawson casting there. It's actually he's playing the right age, which is nice for once. Again, not oftentimes you see that, which is what I certainly liked about the Peanuts movie and what I disliked about the Captain Underpants movie. And that they actually cast, and they always do that with Peanuts, but they cast kids to play kids roles. And in the Captain Underpants movie, they had Kevin Hart and some other actor, I forget who it was, as the kids in that. And I was like, oh man, I was kind of hoping for an actual like kids to play them, but it dims the breaks. Obviously, sometimes they have older women voicing kids or male kids because they can get their voices to get kind of that high pitch when us guys haven't like I can't say that. When we haven't developed, basically, our voices have not developed. Pardon me.
Yeah, but surprisingly for someone so young, he'd actually had a bit of a career up to this point. He
Did he now?
had done a stint on Backyardigans for 20 episodes,
Oh yeah, okay.
playing Pablo. Yeah, Pablo the Penguin, which I thought was maybe that was the source of their penguin jokes in this first episode.
Oh, probably not. Okay.
Probably not.
But we made a reference right there.
But he also happened to work on the television series Little Bill, which my sister has watched often. Do you remember that series at
That
all?
wasn't the spinoff from Fat Albert, was it?
I believe it
Okay.
was either a spin-off or just another Bill Cosby show, but it was a bit beyond us. We were too old to watch at that point because it was just for toddlers, but my sisters watched it.
I think I watched that series every now and then if it was on. He wasn't the lead character, was he? He wasn't Little Bill, was he?
No, but he appeared on the show.
That's
But
fair.
but yeah, ever since Avatar, he seems to have just completely left the industry. So I'm not sure what he's doing these days.
Yeah, he did one other thing, which was the Ant Bully movie, I believe, and that was it.
Yep, the year after this show started.
I'm
Oh, but now, after that little bit of
well, actually,
business,
sorry. I just want to mention one thing about that. Is according to the commentary, one of the commentaries of the episodes, Zach is based in New York, and everyone else was based in LA. And they always, and I think other than the pilot, I think he was always voicing Aang in New York.
hmm, yeah, that's a lot. But I guess that's the nice thing about voice
It's a
acting.
standard practice nowadays of they don't they record it separately, of course, and a lot of down in LA. In fact, a lot of voice acting down there is mostly done by themselves, and but of course there are rare occasions well where everybody will be in the booth again. How it works, sorry, I don't want to get over this, but actually an interesting thing, if you don't know, is if you know you know, but if you don't, here's what it is. If you're if you're gonna do a pre-existing show, which is prelay, no, ADR, sorry, ADR, um basically I forget what it stands for. Basically it's that's mostly if you are dubbing another language movie, so from whatever language, from French to English, then you'll mostly be by yourself and trying to, fit as much of the text or of the sentence into the lip flaps, because we're, for some very odd reason, us, like Caucasians, or at least us Americans slash North Americans, or at least Americans and Canadians, are very anally retentive about the the words matching to the lip flaps. It's so weird. Whereas other cultures just don't give a rip. They couldn't care less. And sometimes I don't mind that approach. It's why I can accept it with like certain cheesy kung fu movies. It's like it's fine. You're not gonna get the flaps to match. At least give it a little, like, be consistent or consider it a little. I'll say that. But with prelay, which is I think not pre-existing, but or whatever it is for before the show happens, before it's ever animated, they would usually bring everybody in and sit them all down or stand up, and they would all be in the same room together and kind of in a semicircle, and they would just act the episode out, which is pretty cool. I'll say that.
It is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and again, rare is that done most of the time. Andrea Romano, who did the voice direction in this episode, or in the series, excuse me, both this and Cora, wonderful, wonderful voice director. She's amazing. I think she was often having all the cast in the same room together, which is standing up. Which usually, if you stand up, you can kind of be animated a little more, and they actually might take some of the animators might take some of those inflections as well, some of those actions that you perform in there. Sometimes it depends sometimes, but yeah, no, just a little fun little tidbit of information there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sorry for going on a tirade.
Oh, no, it's all good. But yeah, now that that little bit of business is over, we'll actually jump into the episode proper. So we start with Aang and Katara returning to the village after their whole, screwing up with that whole booby trap thing. And everybody but the kids is pretty choked with them about the whole flare business.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, everybody has some not so nice faces on their person.
yeah, Gran is pretty disappointed in Katara for going onto that ship,
Very miffed.
but Aang quickly takes responsibility for the mistake, which is a good move for him.
Yep.
Shows some maturity.
Yeah, he's not the typical. I mean, again, this is a whole different culture in of itself. He's not, putting the blame on anybody else. He's not like, oh, I gotta duck out of here and put the blame on. You're right. Doesn't redirect the blame or consequences to somebody else. He takes accepts the consequences for his actions.
Yeah, which the consequences are pretty harsh because old Sokka, I mean, this is exactly what he was looking for. Because he's thus far not been much of a fan of this airbending avatar, or airbending outsider, I should say.
Needed an excuse to just like ream on him and send him his own way. So
Yeah, so he banishes him. And yeah, which very much disappoints Aang's childhood fan base because they all are real disappointed.
indeed,
Not even, yeah, Katara tries to dissuade her grandma to not stand with Sokka's more dictatorial impulses in this case.
yes.
But everyone just agrees with him, so Katara takes a more dramatic option, which is banishing herself along with the
It's just
Avatar.
immediately like, nah, I'm just gonna leave here because it's not obviously the Belle thing from Beauty and the Beast where well, yeah, she does kind of want something more in this life. She wants to go out and train to become the waterbending master. Now, is that for fighting the Fire Nation. I don't know beyond that, but I just know that she is certainly a small village girl in a you know small world, I guess, where there's barely anything to do, and I guess she just wants more out of life.
Yep, exactly. She feels like she has all this potential that's just kind of wasting away here.
Yeah, she's.
She doesn't know anyone else who has any sort of abilities,
I guess
so
she's the wow. She is the Luke Skywalker of this. Wow. Okay, they actually finally did it. They finally got a female Luke Skywalker in there. Nice.
yeah, that's fair.
For those who don't know, Luke Skywalker at one point was originally supposed to be a female, which, oh man, that would have been interesting.
Would have changed a lot of the discussions about Star Wars today.
Oh, it would have, man. I forget why it was. I don't think it was a sexist idea. I legit don't remember why. I think it might have been because they needed a princess character and they didn't want to have two girls at one. I maybe that's still sexist. I apologize, but I
Probably.
still would have been cool. Would have honestly been cool. I want to see that comic done. Of we take a lot of we just have Luke as the girl. But anyway, pardon me. Go on. Moving on.
Yeah, but yeah, Aang, he feels a little bit too bad about this whole situation. He doesn't want to kind of get in between her and her family. So he just decides that he's just going to take off on his own, and she's pretty disappointed about it.
All right, I'll take off for now. I accept my responsibility, and dissuades Qatar for trying to join him. It's like this is your family, not like I'm just you just met me this morning for pit's sakes.
Yeah, and I feel bad for him because clearly in this scene he's still not kind of taking in the gravity of the situation. Where he's like, "Oh, it's been 100 years. My room's going to be a big mess." Like he's such a kind of a kid mentality. He doesn't really even maybe that's just a way of kind of deflecting away from the seriousness for himself, though.
It really is like absolutely for the responsibility that he has as the spoilers Avatar.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
yeah,
anyway, Sokka's just a big jerk here. Like he's mocking Appa that he still refuses to fly. And some poor little kid.
he'll get his comeuppance eventually. Don't worry.
Yeah, and some poor little kid comes all teary eyed up to Aang, telling him not to go.
Yeah, that's
That's
nice.
how sad for our Avatar. But Katara's grandma comes over and she tries to smooth things over a little bit, but Katara, she just ain't having it.
And none of it.
Yeah, and she's just choked that her one chance at finally, like, kind of building on being a waterbender is just left, and now she's got nothing.
It's gone.
Yeah, which could come off as a little bit selfish because she doesn't really actually seem to care about Aang as a person as much as
What?
what he could do for
Yeah, what he
her.
represents, and she's not looking at the bigger picture, of course. But I get it's a two-way street. It goes on both sides.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, she's isolated out here on her own, and she's really has no other option to kind of pursue this potential that she feels like she has. So
Exactly.
I can understand that.
When you're like the only person that can do something the rest of the village can't, like of course you're gonna be asking like, yeah, I guess yeah, desiring a little more than what you have in the village. But that's just what I see.
Yeah, and then we get this even more sad scene for for poor Aang as he and Appa are just sitting in some ice beds, and Aang's all sad, and Appa kind of groans, and Aang says, "Yeah, I missed her too,"
Yeah.
or something like that.
Or not even that. He says, yeah, I liked her too.
Liked her too. There you go. I know I wrote that wrong, but
Whether that means like he as a friend liked her or more than a friend, I don't know. As a child, like a childhood crush kind of thing. But well, I don't know.
well, she was a fellow bender, and she had that. I mean, she went sledding with him. She has that air for excitement.
I mean, spoilers. We don't really see any female airbenders of his age, so
That's fair.
maybe the hormones are flowing through him basically
Yeah, no, it could be.
as a preteen. We'll put it that way.
He's at that age, he's where he's interested in girls. So
Exactly, or whatever he wants to be, I guess.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and really, he's got nobody else right now too. So it's probably even just like some sort of connection.
Yeah, probably.
It's. I was even thinking like, how strange would it have been if Zuko hadn't shown up at this moment and he just went off on his own with Appa? Like, I wonder what would have happened to him.
Let's see a comic on that.
Yeah, and when are they going to start doing the what if?
I mean, they could. They honestly could at this point. It's been close to 20 years, and 3 years from now, but certainly it could be.
Yeah, but Zuko does end up showing up, and so Aang heads off back to the village to do whatever he's going to do. There, Sokka, he's just getting suited up for battle.
Yep.
He's putting on some war paint, and he's getting his trusty little battle hammer or whatever it is ready for smashing some heads.
This is the only time, by the way, that we see straps and or string being applied, not applied, ropes. Sorry, ropes being tightened onto everybody. We don't actually see that. This is again, even though they're industrialized, they still wear armor. But again, they don't have. There's close range combat still exists because there's no guns in this world. I mean, there's still arrows and crossbows, I believe. I don't know if we actually see crossbows, but and thus we have armor needing to be put on, and it's not full plate. I don't remember what it is. I mean, we see full plate armor at some point, but it's certainly not full plate. And what Sokka is wearing is not full plate either. But we
Yeah, not at all.
certainly juxtapose both suiting up of the warriors. One who actually kind of did get a lot of training. Oh, spoilers. Did get a lot of training. Well, I assume we. Sorry, I have to remember to like kind of close my mind of like what happens in the series, but it's really hard. It's really hard just to look at the whole big picture, right?
Yeah, it is hard, but we've seen Zuko training already, so we know that he's got skills.
I'm surprised that he has a different helmet. I think his helmet's a little more ridiculous. I don't know if that's supposed to be like his prince helmet, but I don't know if he would have one if he was exiled. But it's a little bit ridiculous, I find, rather than the traditional like foot soldier helmet. I think that design's a little more better, and it actually is supposed to invoke a flame, if you could believe it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Whereas Sokka has ammo pelt as his what do you call it, as his armor, whereas Zuko looks to have
Yeah, his
like
battle
I
garb.
guess leather on there as well, maybe hard leather. I don't really know. I'm not I'm no blacksmith or
Oh,
armor
but
smith in reality. I know that for a fact.
yeah, but you really got to respect Sokka here. I mean, even if he is kind of a big jerk, he's got the weight of protecting the whole village on his
Yep.
shoulders, and he's trying to train this group of kids to be his backup, but that's not really working out. So he's really the only one who can take on any sort of threat, which is a pretty crazy spot to be in.
It's certainly not going to work that way, but you got to give him that. And he certainly stands his ground, and some would say that's foolish,
Oh yeah,
but others would say that's perhaps brave. And
I call him brave. Yeah, he's the only one who can do it, and he does it.
I mean, at the same point, I would also state like brave, yes, but maybe you should have also moved out of the way because in case the ship flattened you, I don't think it'd be bad because then who would protect the village if Aang wasn't coming back?
Yeah, just explain what you mean there. Yeah, he's standing on top of like their big ice wall, and a giant warship comes and smashes through it, and Sokka stands his ground.
I mean, again, steel against snow, so of course, like it's plowing through that like a dirt, like a car with dirt against an anthill.
Hey, he's got spirit. Yeah, even if he's a little bit foolhardy, he's got spirit. You got to give him that.
Indeed.
And I'm a big fan of Sokka, so I mean maybe that's why I'm
Well,
backing him
that's
up so
fair.
much here. But
Uh, no, absolutely.
but I do really think it was a nice bit of juxtaposition for him because we just saw him as like such a jerk face at the start of
So we're
this.
actually giving
It,
him something to do and or a moment, basically.
yeah, and it's good to kind of yeah, good to give him some points as to showing that he's actually like kind of a solid dude,
Yeah.
just so we don't like get off on the wrong foot with him right at the start
Well, he
here.
does have a stick up his butt. He certainly can walk the walk, as they say. Like when the push comes to shove, he's gonna do something.
Yeah, and really all of his jerkiness was kind of in a way for protection. Like he didn't want um Katara to mess around with the waterbending stuff too much. He wanted to like focus on, hey, what we got to do here is get food for our village, and you're messing around with that weird magic crap. And with the Avatar, or I guess he didn't know it was the Avatar, but here's this weirdo airbender who's shooting up this big signal, like this could cause some problems. So
We get that more further down the line of why he was like that, but at least for now, that's what I can say that seems reasonable is that he's the only man he accepts where he is and in his he accepts his way of life basically and what he's been given, and that he has to as the only like male or at least a teenage male or whatever you want to call it, capable of like combat basically. He himself certainly has to take it up to protect his village, and is very much in line with the village and what Gran says of defending the village. And I will actually question this though. I'm surprised why didn't any of the other maybe they're just mothers, so I can't fully I shouldn't say anything on that, but why weren't any of the other women warriors? I'm wondering on that. At least trying to be warriors. That's a little interesting. Why we didn't have any female warriors instead?
Yeah, I feel like that would have been nice to see, but I mean, they all have like these young kids. You look, they've all got kids next to them. I mean, they're kind of maybe not in really kind of peak fighting shape,
Probably not, but I would just again.
but that'd be better than just standing around.
It's not just standing around. It's just the fact like you feel almost the men who were in the village went off to war. I hope that's not a spoiler. Went off to war, and
Said it the first episode.
the men all went out to war. So you almost assume that either some of the women would either take charge and learn some skills in fighting and kind of bettering themselves while still trying to be supporting their children, of course, because they're still the moms. But because I feel like you lose that one partner that's good for protection, and I feel like you're gonna have to kind of step up as well, just like, well, time to go on like full on mama bear mode of like I'm like protecting my kids. But I guess the other argument is that they didn't have anything other than maybe some animal attacks to worry about. Like as far as I'm aware, there was no other, again, except for one part, future spoilers, aside from another Fire Nation ship coming and invading their village, there was no other attacks from then till now. So again, I guess no need, whereas Sokka was the one that he has to prepare. So I don't know.
Yeah, but aside from all that, Zuko and his troops, they exit the ship that just crashed right through over poor Sokka.
Yeah.
And even though they come out, heavily looking like actual soldiers, Sokka, brave or as stupid as he is, runs right up to them to defend his village. But immediately Zuko just kicks him aside, and everybody just kind of cowers in
Just
fear.
like, what was it? First he kicks his club out of his hands, and then like while his kick is still in the air, or while his foot's still in the air, excuse me, like knocks Zuko back with another kick. Which, if you're in,
Or Sokka.
if you're not in traditional martial arts, modern day martial arts, don't do that. Always put your leg back down, so you can apply more power. That's probably, if you could snap it obviously to like get a kick, but like again, if you're going for power, do it the Muay Thai style and always bring your foot back down, even if that is traditional martial arts. But still, it's more of an effective thing. But whatever, I'm not gonna argue which is better. Just a point of contention right there. But anyway, so yeah, goes down there and then, well, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, he grabs that grandma and says, "Hey, you guys seen any old men like this who might be the Avatar?" And
Oh yeah, but he's about this age.
yeah,
But like at first we think she's gonna be taken away, and yeah, it's Gran instead, and like, yeah, the joke. And what happens next, sir?
yeah. But after that, Sokka, he just keeps up the attack, and he almost ends up actually getting Zuko with his bangerang, or I said get bangerang, this boomerang.
Well, I mean that's
Yeah, the unintentional reference.
anyway.
And I like that one of the kids, after Sokka's disarmed, throws him the spear and repeats Sokka's "Show no fear" mantra.
Yep.
I thought that was a cute little moment.
Yeah, I like the way he destroyed his pardon me. I like the way he destroyed his spear just like with two hands up, two hands down. I don't know what the move that is, but it's his fighting style is based off of, yeah, I'll kind of give this a little more. His fighting style is based off of Northern Shaolin, I believe, which I think had a lot of like high kicks and a lot of broad movements with the arms and whatnot. I'll probably say that. I'll get better research on that later, but that's one of those things that you'll see through there.
Oh, sure, that'll be great. Yeah, but mostly Zuko just seems to treat Sokka as just kind of a nuisance. Like he just pushes him aside, like whatever this silly little whatever this thing is trying to fight back.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get ticked off until Sokka's boomerang comes back and smacks him in the head, and then he fires up his hands.
Yeah, just like throws it, set up, and then wham, like right there.
Yeah, then he fires up his hands and look like he might actually just like execute Sokka right there or something.
Yeah.
Like he looks pretty murderous.
And then it's Hero Man on his trusty penguins.
Yep, Chekhov's penguin. I wrote in my notes.
There you
Yeah, takes out Zuko's legs. Yeah, and I like the little exchange he has with Sokka here when Sokka thanks him for coming, which is kind of a nice flat delivery by Jack DeSena, I like that. But yeah, then Aang and Zuko face off, and Aang admits to the world that he is in fact the Avatar, which is a shock to everybody.
Yeah, I guess he did. Yeah, never mind.
And yeah, they begin some mild combat here, but Aang, he mostly just pulls defensive moves, like he, for whatever reason, maybe in fear of hurting the other villagers, he doesn't really strike back too much.
Well, about that, you don't know if cut if you have to, but I forget the term or the I actually forget the martial art. Not I think it's called Bagua. It's got a like much longer name, but Bagua is one of the styles is the style of airbending. And what it does, it's very like sweeping, a lot of sweeping movements and a lot of like foot movement as well. I mean, there's a lot of foot movement in martial arts. What am I saying? But the point of contention is that you're not so much attacking, you're mostly defending. And
Hmm.
very much also controlling the body. And we'll see that we'll actually see a move I think upcoming shortly, and in other episodes of Aang just controlling one's body, but like up close and personal, which kind of makes sense for
Yep, we'll
airbending. I'll
see
say
that.
that, but rarely will Aang throw like a punch, or a kick. Almost, he'll oftentimes just like manipulate the air to do stuff for him.
Yeah, but I mean, they're both, I mean, at least in terms of like a bending fight, they're mainly using the elements that they have
Of course.
rather than actual physical blows.
Well,
But
there's no physical blows as often, and I kind of always wish that there were more physical blows in this show. And Korra gets into that a little more. I'll say that. But what I'm referring to, of course, is the martial arts styles, in how they're doing range combat, basically.
yeah, but anyway, Aang, he realizes that this fight might get a little bit too dangerous for the village, and so he just surrenders.
Collateral damage.
Yeah, so they take off, and I mean, look at this. Generations of family lines failures end up being Zuko's triumph here, and he proclaims that he's heading home with his prize.
Sure, but anyway, yeah,
Well, at least in this moment, he probably feels like he's finally kind of been a success.
yeah. It's like, wow, that was easy.
But sometime later, Katara is, she's just kind of sitting around doing some moping, and she decides to put her foot down and demand that something be done to help Aang. But our man with the plan's already got his canoe prepped for the journey,
Yep.
and off they trot to rescue Katara's boyfriend.
Well,
Correction, not boyfriend.
exactly. Um, but I'd say she has her Luke Skywalker moment of looking out into the sun, the distant sun.
Well, if you want to draw that connection, I
I
certainly
don't
didn't
know.
see that, but
She's looking out onto the horizon, so like, of course, that's a Luke thing. But anyway,
that's fair. Any horizon is definitely Luke correlated, but
anyway, yeah. So correlated. Anyway, um,
oh no, the ice puns.
anyway, yeah. Grand then comes and approves of this, which is interesting.
Yep, yeah, that's nice. Telling her that she's brought a new hope to the village. I mean, a little bit more. Was Dave Filoni? Was he writing? Did he come in to ghostwrite these scenes?
Good question. I have no idea.
But conveniently, almost as a little joke to end the scene, Katara says there's no way they're going to catch up to them in that little canoe that Sokka's
Yep,
got. And Sleepy Joe the air bison comes stumbling over a snow dune, just perfectly in time for them to take him instead.
indeed.
But back on Zuko's now prison ship, he separates Aang from his air
Yep.
staff, claiming that it's going to be his gift for the Fire Lord later. And he's all going in about it rather somberly, I thought, too. He didn't even really seem enthusiastic about any of
Yeah, of
this,
course.
which I thought was interesting.
Like the moment of like the moment where it's like, okay, what do we do with staff? And it's like, take it to give it to Iroh, and it's like, I was like, yeah, take this to my quarters. I'm like, all right, one of those jokes, got it. Pretty funny.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. But then we get an actually pretty awesome scene with Aang getting brought to his cell,
Yep.
and he says that they probably never fought an Avatar before, and that he's gonna be able to take him out
It
as
wasn't an Avatar, it was Airbender actually.
Airbender, sure.
Which I gotta give that. I wish unless they were looking at the some of the Avatar scrolls at the monasteries, or not the Avatar, sorry, not Avatar scrolls, but the airbending scrolls, because I assume again, like just like the something later on, pardon me, we find out an item. Let's put it that way. I assume that there'd be scrolls that would show the moves because again, everything is there's no internet. There are books in this world, of course, but I assume that there'd be like we used to do. There'd be drawings of the various moves and positions that you would do for the martial arts. So either it was drilled into their minds, these fire lord benders, these Fire Nation troops, excuse me, to know. I don't know if that was ever the case, but to know what how the airbenders fight, or because they destroyed them all, there's no need. But these are new Fire Nation troops, so they might not remember how airbenders. I don't know. I don't know if I'm getting across what I'm saying or what I mean. Pardon me.
You mean that they should be like, yeah, no, I don't think it would be in their curriculum to kind of prep on how to fight a airbender
Yeah,
because there wouldn't be any real need for
it
it.
certainly wouldn't. And to those uninitiated and don't know how it was, I feel like Aang would have an advantage if he again knew what he was doing. And as far as I'm aware, again maybe spoilers, but nothing has changed with Firebender's techniques and moves. So it's almost the same as when Aang was, 100 years prior, maybe.
Yeah, but he used pretty basic combat moves here. He sucks in a long breath and he exhales with a burst of air that flings one of the guards right into a door in front of him, and the other one just fires back with him.
You could say Chekhov's like sneeze in a way, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a sneeze,
Well,
but
not sneeze, but like the fact that we saw what happened when he sneezed and he like went, was it 20 meters in the air or something like that? Maybe not 20 meters in the air, but like 10 meters in the air.
and he flies out of the little underdeck and heads off to go find his
Yep.
staff. And over on the Air Bison cruise, Sokka is very apathetically trying to convince Appa to head for the air. But I don't think he really even believes that Appa can fly, so he's just kind of doing it passively.
Hey, Sokka, say yip yip.
Yeah, and eventually he does just stumble on the words yip yip, and they head off airbound. Which again, I mean, I just really want an Appa stuffed animal. He's such a cool design. I love the
Yep.
tail and the legs, and he almost has like a bit of the cat bus mixed with Totoro
Indeed.
to him. But while looking for his staff, Aang once again gets to show how cool it'd be to be an airbender. He's running circles around them up on the walls, and he's leaping over everybody with barely any effort at all.
Yeah.
Eventually, he finds his staff again, as well as a pretty violent, ready Prince Zuko.
If you don't mind, I would like to talk about some of the action scenes in this.
Sure.
Well, I kind of watching it again. Aang feels like Jackie Chan. I just realized that he feels like Jackie Chan in that he's always running about. Like he was tied up here, and that kind of reminds me of a situation that Jackie Chan would be in. And unlike Jackie Chan, who would use his environment, I mean, Aang does use his environment to his advantage. He has air for pit's sakes, but I like the fact that he never once throws a punch on these guys, and like
Not that he could, but
not that he could, that's true. But I mean, he evades the guards, and evasion is what matters to him. He doesn't care about honor; he just cares about like getting his staff and getting out of there, which is nice. I always like that he doesn't have the mentality that kind of most aggressive men nowadays have, where it's like you insulted me, so I have to beat you up to whether it's physical or verbal or emotional. I have to beat you up to like I guess regain my name or whatnot, or for you to take back that insult or something like that, or to get even with you. I don't know. Kind of like that. I mean, obviously he's still a kid, so he might not know that fully. Well, he's a monk for crying out loud. But I just like the fact that he, when he's has his hands tied behind his back, and then he like goes up against that one firebender and uses his spiked helmet to cut his handcuffs free or his ropes free, and also take the guy down unintentionally. And yeah, I think that was a pretty cool scene. And then we also see him like going through each room, and I also just realized that's sort of Chekhov's ship, because now he knows again that he knows how the ship is laid out,
layout.
and
Yeah.
goes through them, and it's like, all right, that's pretty smart, that's pretty subtle. And but goes into Iroh's room, or at least opens the door of Iroh's room, and is like closes it, quietly. Is like sorry in a very like animated, typical animated joke gag of like his mouth being longer than it should be.
Yeah, but eventually him and Zuko get into a fight over the staff, or not so much over the staff, but over the fact that he's managed to escape.
Yep.
But once again, Aang is kind of pushed more to a defensive role,
Yeah,
mostly just flying around the room.
in one scene you'll see him go right behind Zuko's back and like put his hands to his spine. That is absolutely a standard move of, or I don't know, a signature move, but certainly one of the forms that they teach in Bagua, I believe. It's not Bagua. What is it? I don't remember. But anyway.
Yeah, and eventually he manages to get his staff and just starts slapping him around
Oh
the
yeah, we
room.
also see him the first instance of the air scooter. Pardon me.
Yep, which is cool. I'd like to see that.
Not to be a goof, but he tries spinning on Zuko, and I'm like, oh golly, that's don't want to go there, but
Yeah, but he manages to escape the cabin, and now that he's got his staff, he just wants to get out of there. And he leaps
oh
out the
yeah, and he's
top.
also using some of the environment to his advantage. First, he uses he uses a banner against him, and then he literally just I don't know why we haven't done. Sorry, but as far as I'm aware, I don't think he uses this again, but he actually uses the air away from him to push a mattress right onto him, which would be pretty useful in some other parts of the future episodes, but whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember if that comes
Yeah.
back. But he just barely misses his chance to escape
Yep.
as this very determined Fire Prince leaps out behind him and pulls him back down to the deck.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the fight is lost, and Aang ends up getting fired overboard. And once again, we find him falling into the Avatar state.
Goes right into the drink and is like, oh boy. We see that
Yeah,
whole oh whoops. We see that kind of like fight or flight response, self-preservation come by.
yeah, because he's like completely out of it, just sinking to the depths, and eventually that Avatar state just kicks
Yeah,
in.
exactly. Jeez, like I forgot that Zuko was like pretty aggressive on him. It's like you just uh, for all you know, you kind of killed the Avatar. It's like um
Yep,
well,
bring his corpse
if
back.
it, well, it doesn't matter because he's now going to be a waterbender at that point. So
Yeah, but that also goes to show how uncontrolled even Zuko is. Like all these people are dealing with the fact that they don't really have a good grasp on their
yep.
powers.
But yeah, we see, Avatar state and just, oh yeah, no, Aang just takes a bunch of water and knocks them all down.
Yeah, and once again, we see him falling very weak afterwards. Some other soldiers show up, and Katara gets her chance to fight back using her waterbending
Yep.
abilities. Yeah, but she's got some directional issues at the moment, and she fires the water behind her and freezes Sokka
Again,
to the
it's all
deck.
about the movement. It's all about this. It's the form is what counts. Kind of, you have to really get that form in.
Yeah, so she turns around and fires the water from behind her, which freezes all them.
Yeah, I guess this is also, I just realized, the rescue on the Death Star.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, we also have a little payoff almost of when Zuko was like, poking Sokka with the stick or his broken spear. And so now when Sokka goes to retrieve Aang's stick, Zuko is holding on to the stick and he just starts poking him and gets him off. And I think one of his catchphrases throughout the series is like stuff about Water Tribe. And he mentioned something about Water Tribe, and probably because they're like they're the underdogs, basically. So they certainly are. I'll say that you don't see as many waterbenders in the world as opposed to like earthbenders. But anyway, Zuko's still holding on to the anchor, and yeah, then we see the soldiers get up, and yeah, here's where Katara has her moment of like, oh crap, we just had water get like we got annihilated by water. It's like, oh, maybe we have a chance.
yeah. So Iroh, he comes out, woken up from his nap, just as they're flying away, and him and Zuko pair up together to fire off one blast to try to stop them from
Yeah,
escaping. But Aang just grabs his staff and uses it kind of as a baseball bat and slams the fire right into the iceberg.
a typical move in certain animations of taking the wind and literally like shooting or deflecting other attacks away from it. Standard move, I'll say that.
Yeah, but after that scene, we get a little bit of a kind of a quiet little reprieve here at the end, where our group is all flying off, and Katara tries to get a little bit of some insight into how Aang did his waterbending moves, but Aang's got no real answer here. He doesn't really remember what happened when he goes into the Avatar state, it seems like.
I did what now?
And she asks him why he didn't tell them before that he was the Avatar, and Aang says it was because he never wanted to be. Typical Campbellian. Never wanted the hero's role or whatever.
I didn't want this life. There was I did not want it. It was put upon me, and I'm put upon about it basically.
Yeah, and she tells him that the world's been waiting for the Avatar turn to put an end to the war, but he's got no clue how he's supposed to do that. But she says he has to learn how to master the four elements to do it. And what better way to start than picking up back on Katara's original plan by heading to the South Pole so that they can both be trained together in waterbending.
The South Pole.
Did I say South Pole? I meant North Pole.
Right. I mean, that'd be cool if it was a reverse instead of like, you know, just because in the real life North Pole there's barely any like land up there anyways, whereas the South Pole has massive amounts of land.
That's true. Yep. Wasteland.
I actually would have liked it. I know it would have probably not mattered, but it would kind of be awesome if this place had the reverse of North Pole. I mean, right now in this century, right now at this point, the Earth is still pointing north. Like the magnetic pole is north and not south, and we haven't had a geomagnetic reversal yet. So I wait the day when that happens, but it's not going to be. It's going to be past my lifetime. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's fair. But we get one little last bit here, because like any good tourist, Aang's got a series of sights that he'd like to see on his way to the North
Oh
Pole,
yeah,
uh, such as surfing on some giant koi fish and harassing some poor, unsuspecting monkeys. So always keeping it lighthearted, even in the aftermath of a darker moment for them.
everybody's going surfing on koi fish.
Yeah, but then we got a really cool shot of Appa along like a big skyline, which I always love those shots. I'd love to have one like a piece of art on my wall,
Oh, of course.
just Appa soaring. But yeah, that's how we end the second chapter of what I wrote to my notes. Apparently, Avatar: The Legend Begins. I don't know why I wrote that.
It could be.
Who knows why I write things sometimes.
I mean, that you could honestly count this as like the pilot, but or you could call the pilot that.
Yeah, but so that's the first two episodes. I mean, this has been a fairly long, in-depth episode. I hope you all enjoyed that.
Indeed.
Yeah, but any and last kind of thoughts or any final thoughts on those two episodes before we close out the episode?
Let's see here. A good. Again, like I said, a very good starting point. A lot of payoffs. I'll say that there's a lot of setups and payoffs, and yet you do certainly have to like. Spoilers, there are other parts, and when I say parts, there's also other tie-in episodes to each other later
Mm-hmm.
on, where there's like part one and part two, and this certainly is part one and part two, but they separated them in different titles, so that's totally fine. So treat it as that, and again, there's setup and payoff here. Again, just giving us more, and it is the start of a road trip show, but not
Yep.
in like the comedy. I mean, it does kind of start off as a joke in a way of like he wants to go visit all these other regions. Uh, and yeah, again, it kind of I think like you said, he kind of like redirects the fact that he has to be a like yeah yes he should probably go straight to the North Pole and see and just like focus only on his instructions, only on getting like right now he should either uh I don't know if there's a problem with going out of order. I forget if I think there might be a you have to do it in the order of the elements just because that way you learn one after the other, and actually that does make sense because fire is the hardest to control because of what kind of like energy source you're using.
Yeah, it could also just be convenience of the location that he's in.
That too.
I can't remember if they really get into the details of how necessary the order is, though. But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, so from a practical perspective, yeah, he probably should just go and master all the elements and not take in any culture whatsoever and be very utilitarian. But is that ever a good idea to be utilitarian? Yes. It's probably as smart to be utilitarian. Okay, fair point. But the series exists anyway. Should he have just gone and devoted all his time to studying? Uh yes and no. I think I still prefer the road trip and learning about culture and learning about the history of what's going on. I think that is an important statement to do. Really a really good job of showing well again what's to come. Really good job of showing kids what what a war torn place looks like. In a way, I'll say that.
Well, I don't know about this episode. I mean, we don't really see any war torn
I know that's kind of spoiler, my bad, but again, we certainly saw what it's like for a small village in South Pole where nothing happens around there.
Yeah, good use of world building.
Yeah.
Even though we're not seeing the war torn aspect of the world, we still get the indication that there's a whole lot more kind of darkness out there that we're not seeing in this kind of isolated little spot that we're starting off
The
in.
episode does absolutely do what every pilot should do, is it leaves you wanting more, and in a not in a nowadays like, oh, what's the term? I don't even remember it anymore because I try to purge it from my mind. But not in a like, they're not going for those money shots or whatnot. They're going for these guys are trying to tell a story. And yeah, it this episode certainly left me wanting more. Like, just, oh man, like, again, it's so hard to not to look at these two episodes in a vacuum like I did when I was a kid, and not just go like, oh, what are we gonna see along the horizons?
That's why it's going to be fun doing this show. It's a brand new kind of exercise for
I mean,
us.
I guess you said this already, but it is absolutely appropriate that we start with this episode because it is about a new world, basically. Well, in the day it was, but like a brand new world, and looking at the horizon and what's to come, and that's symbolic of what we are now. I guess I don't know. I don't. I don't wish to be like.
Well, we've been doing this podcast and game for a while. It's exciting to be doing something completely new for us.
It's not so much like, I don't want to sound like goofy or up my own behind, but kind of sounds like that.
Hey, it's all good. There's nothing wrong with being a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but. But yeah, my final thoughts. I thought it was a great opening for this series. I love the setting. I think they did a great job balancing the tone. I think all the characters pop pretty well. And I think you get a good sense of all the characters as well, like kind of where they're positioned and what they're going to do in the rest of the series. Zuko is very clearly set up as the antagonist, but an antagonist who's not just a straight up bad guy. Like, he's clearly got some kind of inner turmoil going on there. I like that Aang is, he doesn't just completely deny all the seriousness that's going around him. Like, he addresses it when it's necessary, but he's also keeps that kind of childlike wonder for the world. So I think there's a lot of, it's a great setup for the series. I think these first two episodes.
Yeah, it leaves a lot for all these characters, and even the antagonist, because we certainly, I don't know if when you first saw Zuko, if you kind of figured if he was going to be developed or not, or if he was going to like stay the way he is, but it certainly leaves all the characters open for development, which is the point.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was going to be one of those shows where each season has its own villain,
Oh
but I
yeah.
certainly could tell right from the start that there's more than just stereotypical. He's not just another kind of like a Sailor Moon villain where there's just some guy who shows up and he's like, I'm going to be the baddie for the next 20 episodes.
Villain
And
of the week and or villain of the season.
hmm
Yeah, no, it's always nice when you can like do that. Again, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. We probably shouldn't be talking about this stuff,
yeah,
except for
but
spoilers. But you know, I sincerely, pardon me for apologizing all the time, but apologize if I am like, I don't know how I do this without like in a vacuum. I don't know how I could see this like enclosed of, I've only seen two episodes so far and that's it.
but what did you guys think of the episode? Write in, Nat, again, whatever it says in the description. But
Send a vocal email instead of, you don't have to always type stuff. Um,
oh yeah, absolutely.
you have I don't know if you could send stuff from Instagram, like videos of you just being like sending a 1 minute or 30 second, or I don't know how long. I honestly don't know the internet socials, but just something you can do a video instead of just like writing it. Because how often do people do that of just like request to their viewers of like or listeners, excuse me, of like, oh yeah, send us an audio clip if you want of what you thought of it, or send us a video of what you thought of it. I don't know. Be unique in your own way of how you send things, and send us an open letter if you want at this postal service office. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you want to send in voice clips, we can easily just tag it onto the episode in the end. So
Again,
if you have something to
I
say.
swear we are not desperate.
It's a fun way to reach out to the audience. I used to, my favorite podcast of all time, which I blatantly ripped off for our teeny speakeasy episodes for the Novice Leaders podcast. But the TARDIS Tavern, I used to write into that show all the time, and they would just read out the my emails at the end of the episode.
Yes, all the messages that you were sending them.
Yeah, among many other people who would write into that show, it's a popular thing for podcasts to do.
I guess a standard thing of
Read out.
especially if you're on like Twitch, for instance, where you'll always read the responses of people. Whereas this, we always do enjoy it. Yeah, you can criticize us as well if you wish, or at least you can criticize me. I don't know about how you would feel, but I certainly will take the criticism.
Yeah, if you have any comments on how you think we could better do these episodes, sure, send us an email. I'd be happy to take it under advisement.
Yeah, cancel it. Like, okay, maybe not that one. You can always just not listen to us. That's what I often do. If I don't like something, I'm just gonna not watch it anymore and not boycott it.
That's
Well,
fair.
I'll maybe semi boycott it, but anyway.
I wouldn't mind reading out some mail.
Yeah, just mail.
Yeah, so yeah, if you guys feel like sending something in, sure, send it in, and hope you check out the rest of our shows.
Send it by Carrier Hawk.
But any last words, or should we close her all down?
Go out there, folks. Get on your gliders. Learn airbending first before you do that. I mean, well, you can go parasailing, you can go hang gliding and whatnot. That'd be cool. I wish that we had more of that where Aang was on a parasailing on the ocean. That'd be kind of cool. But I guess it's more of it's kind of a combination because there's a gray area between like what element, like combinations of elements, which they certainly go into in this show. Certainly not often, but I wish they have that. Maybe in the next series, we'll see that.
Yeah, we'll see.
But anyway, yeah, take flight, boys, girls, and all those in between, and catch you later in the next episode. Peace.
This section of the podcast contains spoilers for all seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. Enter at your peril.
Hello, guys, at the end. What I was talking about before was the firebenders, because they use anger mostly as their fuel for fire, since firebenders in this series can actually, create their own element. Because again, I enjoyed it in Shyamalan. I thought it was an interesting idea, but what gave them the means to also conquer the world is the fact that, unlike the other benders that have to use pre-existing elements, so they're kind of limited in a way, but not really. They can create their own fire, because firebending, in my opinion, is actually very limited. If they didn't have that ability, then they wouldn't be able to conquer the world, I think. And it's like, well, what about your point before? I don't know. I just like that idea that they would have to like use a lot of fire somehow, or it would result in more, I guess, like destruction because of on their part. So I don't know.
No, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, limited. I mean, waterbenders too. I mean, if they weren't around water, they'd be in pretty rough shape for using their abilities.
Well, good thing the Earth in this case. I think it's actually called. Well, I mean not Earth, but good thing the planet. Wish they. There probably is a name for this planet, but I don't know. I wish there was a planet. They call it the
Email in at
exactly.
whatever it is in the description, because I don't know the email
Oh
address.
yeah, I guess not. Doesn't always have to be an email, but whatever. But on this planet, I assume that it's still covered in 70% of water.
Yeah, I assume so too.
And again, most waterbenders and water tribes would stay close or near to or on the water. So hopefully one day in the near future, if we get another series, we can finally see a underwater water tribe.
Oh, that'd be fascinating. Oh man.
But more
Oh
on
man,
that
you just
later.
got me so pumped.
More on that later.
Yeah, more on that
I
later.
mean that, and I'd also love to see. Actually, my hope would be something similar to Bioshock Infinite, where we have airbenders in a sky fortress of some sort, or a sky city.
Oh, that'd be super cool too. Oh
Exactly.
man.
Anyways, sorry.
But
Continuing on.
yeah, could you imagine if they did a series way off in the future with these
I
abilities?
mean, after Korra, I
Like,
think it's let's put it this way. I just gave myself ideas for my fan fiction, but anyway.
yeah, they could do a modern series, which would be interesting. But
Well,
yes, but anyway, yeah, we're
sorry.
going way
Stop
off now.
speculating. Stop speculating. We'll save this for Korra, which we'll forget about because it'll be like 3 months down the line.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be a lot longer than 3 months, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
we'll see. Let's see here.
And you don't have to do the if you thing this time around if you don't feel like it
You're
for
not
this
even.
show.
You're kind of like strongly suggesting I don't, but
No, no, it's up to you. I mean, I know sometimes you're like, I don't know what to say for these, and I feel like I put you on the
yeah,
spot.
well, that's
So
fair. Sometimes being on the spot leads to something you randomly don't know.